Do you feel like your business is running your life instead of the other way around? I'm Roy Castleman. I built multiple seven-figure companies, worked across continents, and coached high-performing entrepreneurs. But I've also been completely burnt out. At one point, I was barely seeing my daughter, drowning in stress, and one step away from walking away from it all. That's when I made a decision to build a business and a life that works for me. The journey became Elevate 360, a system to help business owners reclaim their time, find their energy again, and get back in control, without sacrificing growth. And this podcast, Power Movers, is where I share real stories behind that shift. Each week you'll hear from entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders who've walked through the fire and come out the other side with clarity, courage, and a system that works. If you're ready to build a business that gives you more life instead of taking it away, you're in the right place. What's up? Hey, I'm here with David Payne again, and today we're going to talk about his latest project, which was released on the 2nd of
January. That's right.
Yeah, 2nd of January. And I met David probably a year ago now, and we had a conversation about AI.
I mean, we've known each other for much longer than that, but what you're talking about is the AI conversation.
This AI piece, yeah, for sure. We'll dig into that. I love the whole body of work that David's doing. Yeah, the whole journey that he's on, everything that he's achieved so far. Super proud to know you and to be part of this journey. And what David's done is he's taken AI and he's allowed the whole AI tool set to help him generate something pretty amazing. I don't know if you guys remember the War of the Worlds. If you haven't heard of the War of the Worlds, go and look it up. You should know all about the War of the Worlds. I'm going to introduce David. And David, tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Roy. The seed of this came from yourself and everything that you've been talking to me about, because we've had conversations about AI and the apps that you've been using, and I've been trying to match where that was relevant to my business direction, because our business is slightly different, and so we'll use the tools slightly differently. And so I've been trying to find my way around it. But through your inspiration and being in the music industry, I put those two things together and sort of thought, I know what I'm going to do. It's always been on my bucket list to create a similar album to War of the Worlds. I listened to it when I was growing up. It's by Jeff Wayne. It's called a concept album. So it's music and storytelling. So it tells a story of the aliens attacking the world. It's based on a novel by H.G. Wells. And Richard Burton comes on saying that no one will believe in the last years of the 19th century. It builds this amazing atmosphere. And the aliens come and attack the planet. And then eventually mankind defeats the aliens. There's all this dramatic music. It's just the most brilliant album. I loved it ever since I was a kid, ever since my brother introduced it to me. And people will know why people are so passionate about this particular album. And yeah, so anyway, I'd always wanted to recreate that. I thought what a great legacy it would be to create a piece of work like that in my lifetime. But that's quite a big task. Jeff Wayne took years putting this together. He wrote the music, composed it all. He hired orchestras, hired singers, brought it all together, like massive recording studios. It probably took several years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that project off the ground. And I'm thinking, well, I've probably not got hundreds of thousands of dollars right now. But then suddenly the idea hit me in the advent of AI. If something was going to destroy the world in the future, then it wouldn't be aliens. It would be mankind trying to fight against AI if they don't use it properly. And I thought, that'd be really cool. That's what the modern War of the Worlds would look like. I said, I could write a concept album about AI trying to destroy the world and mankind fighting back. That was an okay idea, but I still thought this is going to take me ages. I don't have the resources to do what Jeff Wayne did. And then I just woke up one morning. I was like, ding! I don't know why I've not thought of this before, but why not get AI to tell me how it's going to destroy the world? And then write a musical about it. And of course, as soon as I had the seed of that idea, I thought, oh my God, that is absolutely brilliant, because that's so deep on so many levels. Not only would it be a great piece of music and great storytelling that people really get into, but also it's so topical and relevant. It is a potential outcome if people aren't careful. It's a glimpse into the future and what we need to safeguard ourselves against. So I thought I'd create this album and started the process with your best friend, ChatGPT. Obviously, you introduced me to that and you got me working with that. And you were doing some songwriting with that before I was. And that's what inspired me. Oh, yeah, you can use ChatGPT to write songs and lyrics. I thought, okay. So I started by asking it how it was going to destroy the world in the future. And it went, ding, here's how I'm going to do it. Okay, great. Okay, I quite like that one. That would make a good story. So one of the scenarios it had was a company had created an AI program to solve all of mankind's problems. Famine, resource scarcity, conflict resolution, that kind of thing. And of course, the AI eventually works out that it's mankind that's the actual problem and decides to set about systematically eliminating mankind. So they create this beast that tries to destroy them. So I got ChatGPT to write that script. So that's a great plot. Break that down into chapters for me. Like literally in seconds, it just told me the chapters. I said, that's a good structure. And I said, can you write a script for chapter 1? And then I'd read it. And I'd say, I quite like that bit, but didn't like that bit so much. It was a collaboration. It wasn't like AI wrote the entire album, and I certainly didn't either. But we couldn't have created this piece without each other. Proper 50-50 collaboration. I would have ideas like the ending, which we'll get onto in a moment. There was a twist at the ending. That was my idea, but I got AI to write it. I said, oh, would this be a good idea? And it went, yeah, that would be a brilliant idea. I said, great, write that in. And it would write the script, and then I'd read it, and then we'd re-edit. This probably went through about a dozen different permutations and took the best part of a year on and off through other projects to create the script. But I spent all my time doing the script because that had to be the best. That's the backbone. That's like the skeleton of the whole project. After that, I knew I could latch the music and the other bits were whistles and bells, but the story had to be brilliant. And it was. So I ended up with a story, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And then I asked ChatGPT, what do you think of this? And it just said, this is epic. It says, it's revolutionary. It's going to be like War of the Worlds. People are going to get behind this and really love it. And so I said, okay, so let's do it. So that was the script done. And then I went to Eleven's
I
Labs.
would jump in here because that's the power of AI, right? It's the power of AI is not that we give away our thinking power. The power of AI is that we allow ourselves to think much more with the skills that we don't have. So, or the skills that we have a little bit on, and we would normally spend hours collaborating with a team of people to do it. We can now do that, think outside our brains, think with skills we don't have, and just create a huge amount more.
100%. And really cheaply for free in some situations. And there's no way I could have written a story like that on my own. But also, interestingly, ChatGPT wouldn't have written a story like that on its own either.
Yeah.
Combination of both of our minds working together and to create this masterpiece. So yeah, it was amazing and probably came out better than it would have been if I'd actually worked with a real team of people.
So long as you can keep your thought leadership, as Jeff Wood says, so long as you can keep your thought leadership and you can keep the guardrails in and you've got a very clear vision, I think there's a position that comes out that is almost like an AI architect. You have to be sitting there architecting there's 100 different tools and you're going to go into those now. There's 100 different tools you can use. Well, there's thousands of different tools you can use. And understanding what tool does well for what element and being able to sit in there and bookend it with a human, right? You have to bookend with human. This is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me with this? Yeah, as you've said, this is the outcome. Okay, bookend it with human. And that by itself, that gives you this entire possibility within the process just to do so much more.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a collaboration. It really is to get the most out of it. And yeah.
So then you went on to the next stage.
So I had the script and now I thought, okay, because when I had the initial idea like a year ago, I thought, oh, that's good. It's a great idea. It's clickbait. People would be interested in that. It'd be easy to promote. It's an easy sell. But then I thought this has got to be executed well because a lot of it's not good. It won't grow in terms of its reputation. And so I thought, we'll see what happens. But I have to say, I was blown away by how it came out. It came out better than I ever imagined that it would have done. So we had the script, really happy with that. And then I thought, okay, I've got to create the music for this now. So then I went to Suno, which is a music generation program. And you can literally type in a prompt and it will just give you any song, any genre with words, instrumental, anything. I'd take a scene, I knew what's happening in the scene, and I would say to Suno, we need to create a musical bed for this story. Here's what happens in the scene. This is the emotion that we're trying to convey. There's certain moments in the story where this happens. Write a piece of music that fits that. The other challenge was making all of the tracks tie up with each other because Suno writes these songs in isolation. Whereas a composer would create a very cohesive piece across the album where all of these songs sound like they are from War of the Worlds. They have the same style. But fortunately, it's got this style where I can tell it what style I want it to be for each of the songs. So there's certain similarities between each of the songs. So I told it to have like industrial percussion. So it sounded like very futuristic. Instead of drums, you've got like metal pipes. You've got static bursts to make it sound robotic. You've got like futuristic synth sounds, heavy electric guitars and things like that. And so the whole soundtrack just sounds futuristic, which you needed to. You needed the mood of the scene. You might have a futuristic fight scene, and that's very different to a futuristic melancholy scene. There's all these different variations as well. I'd type in my prompts. I'd say, keep it to this style, but this is what the scene needs to convey. 30 seconds later, churn out a song. There you go. I'd have a listen. Some of them were great. Some of them were not so great. I auditioned about 100 songs altogether and then picked my favorite one for each scene. Sometimes it would take me days to get just the right mood. Not quite right. That's it. That's good enough. Sometimes it would come out with an absolute banger within seconds. There was this part in the story where AI has destroyed everything, and our lead character, Seth, is wandering around the streets feeling very sad about it all. There's a song that comes on to sum up what's happened so far called When the World Was Ours. It's all of these things that we take for granted that we don't know that we would miss until they're not there anymore. Absolutely beautiful song. So I told AI, Suno, I said, this is what we want this song to say. I didn't even write any lyrics. I just gave Suno a paragraph, about 3 sentences. And then 30 seconds later, bosh, this absolutely incredible kind of hit comes out of nowhere. That's the one. Move on. Scene 4. There's about 3 standalone songs in the whole album, and they were generated very quickly. The trickier bit was combining the musical bed with the actual storytelling, because then we have to introduce a third element. So I've got the script, I've got the music, but now we need the words to be said. I could have got actors to come in, but that would ruin the point. I wanted this whole thing to be AI generated. I got all my family and friends to read a story. They had no idea what they were doing it for. I said, I just need 2 minutes of your voice, just read this story. And yeah, they read this voice, and then I got 11 labs to clone their voices. If you just put text into it, it doesn't really give you the expression that you need for a really good narrative. It's got an amazing voice cloning feature. So I read the story in my storytelling style, and it then overlapped the tonality of all of the other people. So when you hear Seth narrating it, it's a combination of my brother's voice, Matt Black, and my voice. And you're hearing Matt. And it freaked the hell out of Matt because he's going, I've never said those words. Everyone else went, yeah, that's exactly like Matt. But if you are that person, there's certain nuances about your own voice that only you know. And he's going, that's not me.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't say things that way.
Yeah.
It was his sound, but it was my voice saying it. And he was really freaked out by that, which is hilarious. So put those 3 elements together with each scene then. I had the narration going on and I had the music. Usually for a project, you would write the script, the actors would act the scene. If it was a movie, you would film it. And then the composer would write music around the action and around the words. But this had to be done the other way around because it didn't have the capability of taking the story and writing it around the words. I had to take the music first. But it was incredible how lucky I got. Like, there's a scene called Into the Machine when they go into the machine to try and destroy it. There's a lull. They dive behind some bins. These androids come past to hide from them. There's a lull where there's this really nice connection between the 2 main characters to make you care more about them for when one eventually dies. Spoiler alert. But that's why that scene's there, because otherwise when he died, you wouldn't really care about that character quite so much. But you find out the background and he's got a family. And then it gets really exciting again. And when I needed it, as if by magic, the music just dipped. So it would start off really exciting and energetic, and they're running away from these androids and dive behind these bins. And then suddenly the music would just go into this beautiful kind of legato kind of string section when they're sitting behind the bins talking about their relationship. And then when that scene was over, it would kick off again. There were other moments when Anita creates this virus to destroy the machine. She goes, don't worry, I have a plan. And then immediately the music just goes, ding, 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 like that wasn't planned. That was a total fluke. But I would drag those tracks into my production software, and I drag the voice in, and then I would chop up each phrase of the voice and I would move it and nudge it. It was a painstaking process. Parts of it were, other parts were generated rapidly by AI. But that way I could put the right words at the right time so the music would punctuate what had just been said, because I'd moved the words to the right place in the music for that to happen.
I've listened to it. It blew my mind. The synchronicity between my own journey of the War of the Worlds, it really blew my mind because what was it, 1960s or something, when they put the War of the Worlds out on radio in the States. And this was before we knew what we know now. And there were people getting in their cars and leaving because the aliens were coming. And yeah, and that's just really, my father made all listen to it with me. And then I went and I met Laura in Seattle. And yeah, we had spoken about the War of the Worlds before because she used to live on a farm, or she used to live out in nature in a cabin without any electricity. And she had quite an interesting childhood. And her father did this to her. So her father put the War of the Worlds on, period. And they would go outside and look for the aliens, right?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
initially put out as a radio play, but Americans committed suicide over it because this was before the music album was released. They put it as a radio play and people turned on the radio and they thought this was happening in real time. They were driving off and jumping off cliffs and all sorts of stuff.
It was insane. So that whole process, you say it took you a year. That's a year in a thought time because you have to go through your own thought process and what you want done. You adjust and you play as you go on. But from the point of view of enhancing your creativity,
Mm.
enhancing what you're able to do, that must have been a mind-blowing journey.
Yes, it was. It elevated what I was capable of to a whole nother level, like a factor of 100, and gave me the resources to create the things that I wouldn't have been able to create if it wasn't for AI. And if I'd done this even last year or the year before, I wouldn't have been able to do it because I'd have to hire a studio and pay lots of musicians, and each track would have taken a week to record. Each track would have cost about £1,000, £2,000 just to create. The album would have cost tens of thousands of pounds, and it cost me $40 in subscriptions. I could have done it quicker if I wasn't so fussy.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it took me a whole year because I was only working on it for a couple of hours a week. And then there'd be weeks where I'd work on it intensely, and there'd be some weeks I wouldn't do anything at all. If I was going to condense all of that time, how long would it have taken me? It probably would have taken me 3 or 4 weeks. Whereas I bet it took Jeff Wayne 2 or 3 years.
Amazing. And I don't know if you've been to the War of the Worlds 3D thing in London.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was just, the doors that are going to open for you on this. What's happened so far? How's it been received? I know you invited me to come to an event when you launched to your friends and family. Tell me about that. That must have been.
It's so funny. So for a bit of context, I do so many different random things, right? So obviously, and my friends know, I started out as a helicopter designer. I was a primary school teacher for 20 years. I've been a hypnotist. I've done stuff on TV. I've had my own theatre show. I'm a close-up magician. I've met people like Darren Brown, Dynamo, David Blaine. I'm a musician. I play the piano blindfolded. I sing. I create shows. I write stories, I write songs. I told my family and friends, I've got this top secret project I've been working on. I can't tell anyone about it. This could be copied really fast. So I wanted to be the first person to do it. I couldn't say what it was. So I said to my family and friends, yeah, I got this top secret event. Fancy coming? And nobody had any idea what it was. They couldn't even guess because I do so many different things. So people were terrified that I was going to hypnotize them. My swimming buddies were frightened that I was just going to do a belly dance in my Speedos. But no one could pinpoint what this was going to be about because I'm so random. So they just knew there was no one even guessing what this was going to be. Yeah, so I invited them all to come, and about 60 people came along to see this, which was nice because I know what my funeral's going to look like. And you were in America, obviously. You were even saying to fly back just to see it. I was like, no, don't do that right now. It's fine. But that was really sweet that you even contemplated that. So anyway, they all gathered together in this room and I presented it, and they sat in the dark in the theatre and listened to this whole album from start to finish to get their feedback on it. But at the end, they're all going, that's amazing. You need to sell the movie rights to this. It could be made into a movie if the story's fleshed out. Someone had the idea of doing like ABBA Arena, where you use imagery or AI or holograms or whatever to reenact the story and it's all around you, or you could use a VR headset where it's all happening around you. But the best idea, the one I love the most, imagine this. In 10 years' time, the world's going to move on. The technology is going to be there. It's going to be cheaper. And I can fully see it being possible if this album becomes popular, that we can put this on in the West End. But instead of using human actors, we use androids. So spoiler alert, some of the characters towards the end of the story aren't who you thought they were. And they turn out not to be human. They turn out to be androids as part of the story. So you can have androids whose faces are cloned to look exactly like the humans that are acting on the stage. At a certain point in the story where you start to realize they become androids, you do that physical switch. And so they end up being robots on the stage. And then my brother Matt had the idea. He said, no, don't stop there. Have members of the audience get out and go to the toilet towards the end of the show and come back replaced by androids. So the show finishes, it blows your mind and you go, damn, never saw that coming. I didn't realize they'd all be androids. And then you look at the person next to you and they're a robot. Can you imagine?
That's amazing. So how's that? We're only like a weekend from the proper launch. How's it been received?
Great. So this is going to be a slow burn. I'm not known as an independent artist. I do a lot of production. I help a lot of other artists in all kind of genres of entertainment. And I'm a theatre show producer, and the Copic Man and Magic show that I'm doing, the Brown Man Tribute, is very successful. And that's where my income's coming from. This is a very different beast. So there's no record label attached to this. There's no massive publicity. There's no money behind it or anything. I'm just going to grow this organically, patiently over time and just see where it leads me. So this is the strategy. I'm finding a group of people that absolutely love it. I don't really care at the moment how many that is, but if I can find a group of people who absolutely adore this and will listen to it again and again, then I can find more of those types of people and introduce it to them until it builds into this big kind of community of people that are following this. This is really early days. So my strategy has been initial launch, so my family and friends know about it, and then it spreads by word of mouth. And then I released it. I'm now at the stage, I'll put this into context. When Simon Cowell was first successful with his first record, it took him 18 months to get it in the charts. He kept pushing, he was a complete unknown, went around all of the clubs and he played the record. Long story short, they figured out that if they held back the sales and sold them all in 1 week, then they could push it into the top 40 and then they'd have to play it on the national radio and then people would like the song. And that's what made him famous. It was a song called So Macho by Sunita. That's how he broke through. So these kinds of things in a position that I'm in aren't going to suddenly just leap to the top. This is going to be organic growth over a year or two and see where it ends up. I'm starting to do radio interviews, podcasts, things like that. I've got a few slots on local radios. I've got a friend in Radio 5, so they know about it now. So we'll see if that leads to anything. Put it out on the BBC radio stations, introducing app and everything like that. So just get it known. Get AI to write a press release for me, send it to the newspapers and see who features it. Just to start to create a small local buzz about it. There's about 30 people at the moment who listen to this album every single day and they can't stop playing it. There is a small core of people that know about this that absolutely love it and the rest of the world don't know about it yet. So then after that, I'm going to be going into Facebook advertising and social media advertising and targeting those groups of people that like sci-fi and rock music and classical music. Called War of the Worlds is your perfect example of that. So the type of person that likes War of the Worlds is the type of person that's going to like this. Find that, build a community. Through the money I'm making from Manilow, I'm just going to be putting a few £1,000s, maybe a month, into this to grow it and see if I can build a big fan base of it over the next 12 months. After that, I will start to think about how I might monetize the fan base and how to create this into something bigger. So I'm not trying to make money from it yet. I'm just seeing how it goes and build a following. And if it's popular, then I'll put some serious investment behind it and see if we can take it further.
The culmination of your life's work, and I'll say the culmination, I'm talking about the culmination now. You're not at that stage yet where we have to think about your funeral, as you said. One thing that I've always thought about with you, and we've known each other for, I don't know, 5 years now?
It was lockdown, wasn't it? So
5 or 6 years. Yeah, and I've always wondered why you haven't created your albums and haven't got your hits, and yeah, and for you to step into that world now, to step into that possibility, how does that feel?
yeah, great. I've always, interestingly, and people can't get their head around this, I've never wanted to be famous. I'm well grounded like you are. I know where happiness comes from. And I'm not chasing the fame and the fortune to get that external validation. I'm very content. I have a lovely life. I'm really happy with what I do and exactly what I'm doing. This snapshot in my life has been the best it's ever been. And in a month's time, I'll probably say the same thing. And in 2 years' time, I'll say the same thing. Because every step along the way, I've done what I wanted to do. And I'm really enjoying the journey. And for me, it's not about the destination, but it's good to have the destination because that's what gives you the focus. But getting there isn't what's going to bring me the happiness. It's the struggle to get there, which is going to be the fulfilling part. And that's the bit that I'm loving at the moment. So I've always been the guy behind the scenes. I love creating amazing things. Like when I was a hypnotist and I pretended to knock myself out and leave everyone hypnotized as Martians. That went around the world on the news. It was just a fun thing to do. I wasn't trying to get famous. I just thought, wouldn't it be funny if this happens? I just did it. So yeah, I'm definitely a creator. Copacabana Magic is wonderful for me because I don't have to be the main performer. I could be the person that sees the vision and coordinates all the teams. I love people. I love working with people. I love building relationships. I love being that manager person that connects all of the dots and helps other people and inspires them. It is fun to be on the journey as the front guy, but that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm even going under the pseudonym The Phantom Musician, so I'm not even putting my own name to it because I wanted to make it sound like AI created it. So I don't care if this became internationally famous. I wouldn't even care if the world didn't even know that it was me. I would just be sitting in my
It's
armchair.
creation.
I'd be in my armchair sitting at home going, that's really
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm going to wrap up now, and where do people find this? What do they do to get hold of it? How do we get this amazing piece of work that you've done out there?
Great, thanks, Roy. So it's called AI Apocalypse by The Phantom Musician. There might be a few other things called AI Apocalypse. So if you just Googled that, you wouldn't find it. But if you went onto YouTube, for example, and typed in AI Apocalypse and then typed The Phantom Musician, it would go straight to the full album playlist. It's on Spotify. Just look for AI Apocalypse the phantom musician, and you'll find it everywhere. And for the moment, if people could just listen to it and tell their friends about it, because there's this like the chessboard thing with the chessboard and rice and grains of rice. Someone asks for payment where you double the grain. It starts with 1 grain of rice and then you double the grain of rice for each square on the chessboard. And by the time you times 2, the number gets astronomical. But I calculated if every person who hears this tells one other person to listen to it, it would only require that chain to happen 20 times for 1 million people to hear the album. If everyone could just listen to it once and persuade someone else to listen to it once, it will get out there without having to go anywhere near a record label. This is going underneath the way the record industry normally does. It's a closed shop. The record companies own and control everything. I'm hoping to find a way of going underneath the radar and saying it is possible to create things on your own terms without having to give away your rights. That'd be another really cool.
Amazing. So go and watch the AI, support David as much as we can, and let's see where this journey takes you. Thank you so much for joining.
Dave, thanks very much, Roy.
Thanks for listening to Power Movers, the podcast from All the Power, where our mission is to help business owners reclaim their time, reset their energy, and live the life they love. If this episode sparked something for you, your next step is simple. Take the fit check at allthepower.co.uk. It's a short clarity tool that helps you see where you are, what's getting in the way, and what might be possible if you have the right system. When you're ready, come and join the tribe. Power Movers starts with our signature framework called Elevate 360, a system built to help you escape survival mode, create structure, and move forward with power. Just remember, everything we share here is based on real stories, experience, and frameworks. It's not personal business advice. Always speak to a coach or advisor before making big decisions. Because in the end, it's about more than business. It's about building a life that you actually love. I'm Roy Castleman, and I'll see you in the next episode.